So I rode a Ducati for the first time here in Tuscany, but of course it was not the monster MotoGP bike. It's Ducati's e-road bike, the Futa, which came out a couple years ago, now is available in 3 models. The FSA 12-speed electronic group, which is what I rode, SRAM Force Axis group, and then a limited edition Campy Super Record group, because of course an Italian super bike, e-bike, has to have the Italian super group. I want to tell you about the bike, the group, how riding this super easy up the Campana climb here in Massa Marittima compared to me on a super light Canyon Ultimate going full gas. Hint, the times were identical. And I want to talk about other things I've seen here at the Bike Connection, which is a 3-day camp in Tuscany where cycling brands and cycling media and then random yahoos like myself intermingle to talk about new and upcoming stuff. Please take a second to subscribe and hit the notification button so you won't miss any of my reviews or features here on the ride. So I want to tell you about where the motor, 250 watts at the rear hub, helps and where the motor hinders you. In particular, speeds above 25 kilometers an hour. European regulations peg e-bikes, at least those where they don't require you to get a license plate for them, at 25 kilometers an hour, which is what, 16 miles an hour or so? So not all that fast. Where I appreciated it was on a climb. So this Campane climb, the Campanenberg climb, is a little over 3 miles, 750 feet or so, so it averages about 4.2%, which was kind of the perfect gradient for this bike because I averaged just over 14 miles an hour. So when I did without any data on the handlebars, because I brought a Garmin, of course, couldn't put it on the integrated bars because all bikes have integrated bars similar these days. So riding blind, super easy. Did it in 13 minutes, 27 seconds. Went out on the Canyon Ultimate, went full gas, again blind, didn't see the time, wasn't comparing the times. Exactly 13 minutes, 27 seconds. That kind of cracked me up. Pedaling this on the flats is annoying. And that, at the 25 kph or just under 16 miles per h cutoff, it doesn't take much to exceed that. Then the motor cuts out and then you're pedaling a heavier bike. So what that does for you, or what that does for me at least, is it kind of trains me to just ride easy, because if I'm riding an e-bike, I want to get the boost. Now granted, the extra weight isn't as noticeable when you're riding on the flats as if you were riding it without power going uphill, but that European regulation enforced 25 kph cutoff is a bummer. Some other numbers to throw at you. Weight of this with the FSA K-Force Wii 12-speed is 12.4 kilograms, which is just over 27 pounds. Cost is 7,700 euros for the FSA or the rival e-tap bike, and $12,000 for the Campy Super Record bike. Most e-bikes that we're seeing these days will have the mid motor, and that the battery and the motor is in the down tube. That's why you get to see these Mongo down tubes these days. So the hub is not unique, but it's certainly not as common. FSA say they do this for a couple reasons. One is so you can put it on a otherwise relatively normal looking bike, and 2, so that the feel of riding the bike when the motor is disengaged is similar to just riding a normal bike. I found that to be sort of true as far as how the thing feels. It feels heavy. There's just no getting around the extra weight. In terms of the motor assist, you've got 5 different settings. There's a button built into the top tube that turns it off and on, and that toggles through the 5 different assist settings. Also, you can use it with this Garmin button, which gives you an up down to move through the systems, and then there's also a light button. There's no light on this bike, so that button is not useful here. Also, I don't really like the position of this thing, and that it kind of like the Canyon Grail, it really compromises your thumb position and can be a little unnerving when going from the tops to the drops and getting a good grip. Not a big deal. You don't have to have that affixed there or anywhere. You can just use the top tube button. As far as when it kicks in, you have to be pedaling. It's a pedal assist bike. It will last for, in my experience, like a second or two after you stop pedaling. The motor will continue. So when you're trying to like micro adjust up to a stop sign or something, you just do like a little bit of a pedal stroke and then you coast. The net result is a little more oomph than you were expecting, or that I was expecting. So like any motorized vehicle, there's a learning curve to how the thing operates. Riding this in and around Massa Marittima here, certainly enjoyed the boost on the uphill, but on the flats, there is no benefit, and you've got a heavy bike. And then on the descents, yeah, the disc braking is certainly perfectly adequate, and the big beefy tires give you some extra cush, but it's still a much heavier bike than a normal bike, so that adds to the feel, and in my perspective, not in a positive way. Ducati has targeted this bike squarely at Ducati customers. This bike is not available in bike shops. It's available at Ducati motorcycle dealerships, of which there are a couple dozen in the US. In Europe, you can also get the bike online. Makes sense to me that they're not going after bike shops with this bike, because this doesn't seem to be a bike shop customer bike. For the record, I am not anti-e-bike by any stretch. Any bike that gets people out there and enjoying the benefits that we all know and love, to me, is a great bike. So I'm not anti-e-bike, for the record. For me though, this bike, particularly with that European enforced 25 km/h cutoff, isn't nearly as fun to ride as a super light road bike. For my money, I would like to have an all natural road bike and then a city e-bike for zipping around town. That's my sweet spot, but if you're a Ducati customer already, this could be a bike for you. Now let's talk FSA. The WE group came out 2017, 2016, a few years ago. I tested that when it first came out in California with the 11 speed. The buttons, there's two buttons on either side, which can be programmable like so many electronic groups these days. The switch is like a light switch in that it pivots in the center, but unlike a light switch, of course, you can hit it multiple times and keep on moving down or up the cassette or the front chain rings. Shifting, in my experience, was okay. How much of that was due to tuning? How much of that was due to pedaling under rear hub power? I don't know, but the experience wasn't quite as crisp as that of a SRAM electronic group, or certainly a Shimano electronic group. When I took this out of the parking lot here to test, it didn't shift at all. I thought they're sending me out on a dead battery. No, I just had to turn on the system at the front derailleur. The guy said, oh, that shouldn't have happened, but that was my experience, is that I started to ride the bike and nothing was happening. As far as the battery for the bike, the rear hub, that 250 watt motor range is claimed 80 kilometers. Of course, that varies on how much juice you're using on the 1 through 5 settings, how much uphill you're doing, how much you weigh, etc. But 80K is the rough range. You can also buy a battery extender. It doesn't double the power, just doubles the battery life. And charge time is acclaimed 4 hours. So there you have it, the Ducati Futa with FSA K-Force WE 12-speed electronic drivetrain. That's it for this bike, but there's a lot more from me coming from the Bike Connection here in Tuscany. So check back soon for more from Italy.